What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by DraftKings. I'm your host, Chris Raybon. This is our NFL Week 11 betting preview. We're going to talk sides, totals, props, moneyline underdogs, anytime touchdowns, and of course, we'll build our Sunday six-pack of Against the Spread bets with the help of my co-host, the Prime Minister of Degenerate Nation, Stuckey. Stuck, how's it going? Finally, I think gained a point or two on you last week, but overall kind of break even for the pod. How you feeling?
Yeah, thanks to me. I mean, that was probably my worst Sunday I've ever had betting the NFL because, I've had worse days losing money, lost more money, but I bet the Falcons early in the week before the Gardner news. So I had +6 there. So I didn't get the best of the number that pushes in overtime. I bet the Ravens first half, and they just kick a bunch of field goals and then they end up covering the full game and then just a couple terrible calls on top of that. So, yeah, it was a bad week for the pod for me. All good things must come to an end. At least, we did get the money line parlay home, which was nice. Total was pretty easy, but a bad week. But as always, who cares? We're on the next week. Time to start another run.
All right, let's start off with first of all, any quick thoughts? We'll jump into the six pack in a second, but any quick thoughts on the Jets and the Patriots? The spread is up to 13. The total is 43. Patriots been playing really well. Jets threw for 54 yards last week.
Yeah, I can't get to this number. What the Patriots a month ago were what laying 7 to the Titans at home. They've obviously just risen up the power rating since, but I I can't get this high, so I can't bet the Patriots, but I also can't bet the Jets. There's a number of reasons, just matchup reasons. Got to throw on the Patriots, can't run on them. How are the Jets going to move the ball? And now you might see the loss of, like last week, it didn't matter as much against the Browns, but the loss of Gardner, the loss of Williams against this Patriots offense, and they'll be able to hit some explosive plays. The Drake made deep ball right now is just a cheat code. So yeah, and then also you have first time head coaches on Thursday Night Football have historically been extremely poor, straight up and against the spread. Kind of just like you got to prepare a team for a short week and they're not used to it. So there could be some signal there. Maybe it's just noise, but it's mainly a matchup thing. Like you can't run the ball on the Patriots. You got to throw on them. The Jets can't throw. No Wilson either. How are they moving the ball? How are they keeping up? And now you have your two of your best players you traded away, and that might show up here. So yeah, matchup spot screams Patriots, but price matters. So probably sit on the sidelines. The one case I would make for the the Jets, like how I could see the Jets covering. Eventually this team's going to get a turnover or two. It's getting like insane. Like they are -10 turnover margin on the season. They don't have an interception. I believe they're only the second team with no interceptions at this point in the season over the past 25 years. They fumbled it 10 times, lost 7. Their opponents have fumbled it 9 times, only lost 1. Like if there's a team that's due for a couple bounces, it's the Jets. So, if you get a couple turnovers here, probably be in good shape or have a pretty good shot to cover, 13 in a divisional game on the road with a low total. But that's like the only case I can make is just like turnover regression because everything else from a matchup perspective screams Patriots. So with the price where it is, I just can't get there on New England. So it's probably a pass.
Yeah, I'd maybe look into Jets team total under something like that. Jets were actually popping in our luck rankings, I believe, for the past like month. They are not a luck side this week, and it's probably because they had Wangu and Williams, two guys that I think are two of the better returner men in the league score against the Browns. So now you're probably not getting that, even if you get some turnover, just like you said, how are you going to score? So yeah, it's probably just a pass for
At
me.
14, if this keeps going at 14, I might have to take a small bet on the Jets, just from a numbers perspective.
Maybe
That's
we see
a
some
little crazy.
Maybe we see some AD Mitchell, he was inactive in his first game, but apparently the Jets were emphatic about him being included in the Sauce Gardner deal. So I don't know, it seems kind of like the smartest thing they've done in a while, but we'll see. All right, six pack 35-26. Still got a lot of work to do. You're up first. Yeah, where are you going this week? Week 11, already halfway through the season, 11 more to go.
By the way, the NFL is like it can't just be me. The NFL, it's like the most boring I can ever remember. And I think there's too many bad teams, maybe. Um,
You don't like 3 44-22 games in the late window? Or
and like they're also because it used to be like they're kind of there's a lot of overexposure too, and then we're getting fed all these time slots with all these bad games. So it kind of just wears on you, I think. I mean, we haven't had a great primetime game in like a
Yeah,
month and a half. Um,
too
I
many
mean, like
Steelers, too many
Steelers, Bengals
Eagles. Yeah,
was the
yeah.
last one, like Jags, Chiefs. I mean, that feels like 2 months ago. And then like these London games, these Europe games. At least we got a decent one this past week. But and then you end up only having like 3 games in a late window, and they're bad. Like, so
We've been getting some good. I think you know what it is too. It's we've had a lot of good like the early window games have been like that Jaguars Texans game the other day. It's like we tend to see like all these crazy games and they're not happening in prime time for whatever reason. So, but
yeah,
yeah, I feel
they're
you.
also just. I think there is just is too many bad teams right now. Um, that's pretty problematic for the league. The league operates best, and it's the most entertaining when like there's more extreme parity, which I don't think we have at the moment. But
Well, aren't favorites still? Our favorites are still up on the year, right? If I'm not mistaken. So
yeah,
that yeah, so that's kind of. I think I don't. Do you think it has anything to do with just like the emergence of? I was thinking about this, like just the emergence of like these advanced metrics and stuff like that,
we
and
had fourth downs. I think have something to do with it. Teams making
yeah.
more EV decisions, and um, yeah, for sure that plays a part.
It seems
But
like if a team has if a team has a big advantage at quarterback, like in terms of EPA or anything, it's like it's really those teams rarely lose. It's usually when you just have two kind of like up in the air situations where you can kind of go like both ways with that. It's where you see some upsets, but I don't feel like we're seeing as many upsets either. But
yeah,
where you going?
all right. For my first pick of the Week 11 Sunday six pack, I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings -3 at home against the Chicago Bears. Number one, I think this line should be 3.5, and I think it would be 3.5 if the Bears didn't have 4 crazy comebacks over the Giants when Dart got hurt, the Bengals, a luck box win over the Raiders by 1, and a luck box win over the Commanders by 1. They're 6-3. They easily could be 3-6. I mean, this team has basically just benefited from turnover luck on defense. They're plus 14 on the season. They have 8 fumbles, only lost 2. Opponents have 9 fumbles, lost 7. If you remove turnovers, this Bears defense, especially without Gordon and Johnson, they're 30th in EPA per play. They're basically right at the same level as the Bengals and Cowboys, who are historically bad. They're 31st in dropback EPA. And if you remove turnovers on early down EPA, dead last in the league, which is more predictive. No turnovers, early downs. They're worse than the Bengals, worse than the Cowboys. And I mean, Caleb has been much better this year than last year, but I mean, he's faced the Giants, the Saints, the Cowboys, the Raiders, the Commanders, the Bengals. I mean, these are the 6 worst defenses in the league, and those basically are their wins this year. They have a 35% strength of schedule. Teams that have played 35% winning percentage. That's worse than the league by far. Their strength of victory is even worse. Like I said, their wins are Cowboys, Commanders, Raiders, Saints, Bengals, and Giants, and they probably should have lost 3 or 4 of those games. This defense can't stop a nosebleed. I get McCarthy's been bad. Do I love laying points with JJ McCarthy? No, but I think even this offense will be able to do whatever it wants. They'll be able to run the ball. The Bears don't have anyone to cover their receivers. I think Grenard should play on the defensive side of the ball. Ham recently back. They could get Kelly back at center. The rest of the team is pretty healthy. They do lead the league in pressure rate overall and when not blitzing. And look, the Bears run game has been great. Ben Johnson really has that cooking basically over the last month and a half. But number one, look who they played. And number two, the Vikings run defense is on an upswing since they got healthy, like Cashman, Van Ginkel. I mean, if you look over the past 2 weeks, they went to Detroit, held the Lions to 3.3 yards per carry. And then last week against the Ravens, they held Baltimore to 4.2 yards per carry on 36 carries. So their run defense is much better than the metrics suggest. And then I think what's going to happen is Caleb in passing downs. I mean, he's basically just bailing out of the pocket and he's 180ing out of the pocket and then trying to make something happen. It's it's not been efficient, but he's hitting a lot of explosive plays. But a lot of that has come against the easiest schedule of opposing defenses of any quarterback that any quarterback has faced this year. I think there's going to be too many negative plays against the Flores defense. So yeah, I'm back in the Vikings here in a pretty much save your season spot at 4-5 against a 6-3 Bears team that's been extremely fortunate due to turnovers with one of the three worst defenses in the league, maybe four if you want to put the 49ers in there in their current state. So and yeah, by the way, I mentioned who the Bears have played, basically nobody. I mean, the Vikings past four games have come against the Eagles, Ravens, the past five games, Eagles, Ravens, Chargers, Lions, and Packers. So they've been on a pretty brutal stretch here. We'll get and McCarthy in particular will get a nice break against this Bears defense. So yeah, I'm going to take Minnesota. 3 or better, I think is good here.
Yeah, the Bear. I had to do a double take when I saw the Bears were 6-3. I mean, it seems like every game they just eke out too. But like it's pretty nuts. But we came into the year. I think you and I were high on the Bears and we were high on the Packers. If we got the Eagles to take care of the Lions, we'd have the Packers could take care of the Jameis Giants. We'd have those two teams. It's just that now you're betting against the Bears here. So like if the Bears win this game, like we would have Bears Packers, I think, number 1 and 2 in that division. So
yeah, the problem is the Bears schedule gets much tougher. The Packers just got to get healthier. We'll see. We'll talk about that game in a bit. But Jenkins going on IR doesn't help matters at center. And then obviously losing Tucker Kraft was
huge.
pretty big blow. But yeah, I'm going Minnesota -3. Where are you going?
Okay, for my first pick, second overall of the week 11 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers plus 5.5 at the Buffalo Bills. And this is a pretty simple handicap for me. The Buffalo Bills offense, over the past maybe since Joe Brady got hired a couple years ago, midseason, it really kind of trended toward the run. And in that time, they've let Stephon Diggs go. They've gotten into this kind of mode where they're like, okay, in big games, we're going to let Josh Allen kind of bail us out, run more. And otherwise, we're just going to run the ball and everyone eats on offense. But it's kind of devolved into the situation where they have to run to be successful. And I know Tampa gave up some explosives to New England last week to Henderson, but overall, I still think Tampa Bay's run defense on a down-to-down basis is one of the best in the league.
Yeah, they're number one right there with Cleveland in success rate, rush success rate.
Right. And so, it's Buffalo, it's Cook. He's probably going to get an explosive. Not scared of that at all. But this Tampa Bay defense matches up well from that perspective. And Josh Allen and it's the numbers are shown in the blitz too, because Josh Allen really hasn't beaten the blitz to the same extent that he has in the past. Tampa Bay does like to blitz a lot. So this is going to be a tough matchup for Buffalo to consistently generate offense through the air yet again. And I really think it comes down to the fact that they put way too much on Coleman, and a guy who there was no guarantee, especially after seeing him last year, that he was going to turn into anything. Now you got, Shakir looks like he practiced, but he's on the injury report. Ton of guys on the injury report for Buffalo coming off that. Yeah, Kincaid is big too, because I think Kincaid, he's not your normal tight end that he only is good against zones, which Tampa Bay does play a lot of, so he would be useful here. But he can beat some of that man coverage. And Tampa Bay, say what you want about them. We always kind of try to, call them a little bit overrated, and they probably have been at numerous times, but very well coached team. Todd Bowles kind of stays out of the way in offense, and the defense tends to be coached well, even no matter who's in there. So I just think in this spot, given that they have a good run defense, they're going to be able to not give up, like a 40 burger to Buffalo here. It's going to be raining, or it's going to be weather. Weather's coming into play. That helps Tampa Bay more because Tampa Bay can stop the run. Buffalo can't. And Tampa Bay starting to get, even though Bucky's been out, and he's going to be out again, they're starting to get Tucker involved. I think he gives them a little extra in the run game compared to just Rashad White. And this Tampa Bay, we know Baker Mayfield is going to pull some plays out of his ass regardless who they're playing. Buffalo is going to kind of sit back in its zones. A lot of guys injured on defense. Buffalo also, up front, Oliver and a lot of guys that are usually in there aren't in there. So, and I don't know what's up with all these guys on the injury report. I'm guessing it was just because of the traveling to Miami and everyone's going to play. But Buffalo,
Yeah, they were all back at practice today in a limited fashion for what it's worth.
Yeah, like we all kind of came in. Even I think last week might have mentioned like Buffalo was really, oh no, it was 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs. Like Buffalo is not the same Buffalo necessarily that it was. It's not the team I think I thought they were going to be coming into the year. That would just run away with everything. And then you even look at some of the wins they have. I mean, that Baltimore win, very improbable, and it was when Baltimore was probably in a worse state than we thought. They beat the Jets. That was their second biggest win of the year was the Jets 30-10. So, Jets are garbage. And they beat the Panthers 40-9, which okay, it's not really that impressive. So they get the Chiefs. Yes, back them in that spot. Always got to back them as a dog, but I think this is too many points here. I think Tampa Bay matches up well. And the fact that it's going to be weather, number one, it pulls the total down. The total was, I would have projected this total above 50, all things considered, if there was no weather involved. But, the total's down to 48. That helps the dog. The line hasn't really changed. But, and then the matchup, if it's going to be a more run-centric game, I still think that helps the dog in Tampa Bay just because of their run defense. And Buffalo's run defense has been horrible. So that's kind of the equalizer here. And then Tampa Bay with their blitzing, it's not as simple as Josh Allen just kind of standing back there and just running away from people. It's a little more complicated with the blitzes. So give me Tampa Bay plus 5.5. I don't think we're going to get a 6, but might as well wait at this point. But either way, love Tampa Bay against Buffalo in Buffalo.
I can't get there. I think I would need 6.5, 7 to consider Tampa. I mean, we'll see. I mean, maybe if Buffalo is stubborn and just runs it too much, then yeah, they're probably going to keep Tampa in this. But and they do, and Tampa does blitz, and the best way to slow down Josh Allen is to blitz. You want to play a lot of man on some early downs because of their receivers, but then on like known passing downs, if you blitz, play zone on the back end, if you look over the past 3 years, that's like the one kryptonite of Allen. He's still very good, but nowhere close to as
That
good in
makes
all
Tampa
of
Bay
the
a near perfect
situations.
matchup then. That
Yeah,
makes
but
them a near
this
perfect
Tampa
matchup.
offense is without Irving, they don't have this. Their running game is just. I mean, maybe Tucker gives them a little bit more juice, but their offense has been in the tank for a month. Baker Mayfield is not moving. He's not scrambling at all.
Yeah, he hasn't been
Uh,
moved. That is
so when's the
interesting.
last time he had a scramble? Like a month
4
ago?
weeks ago. Yep.
So that's problematic because and then you mentioned some of the Bills wins. I mean the Bucks also they started like what 5-1 with wins by a total of 5 points. Like they were very fortunate. The last time their offense had life was against that 49ers defense, um, who is with all those injuries is like poverty level. But against the Saints they couldn't do anything. Um, I mean they averaged what like 3 yards per play in that game.
But it was a very conservative game plan on the short week going into the bye.
But still, against the Lions with all their backup D-backs, I mean, like it looked like the Lions had 5 All-Pros in the secondary. Baker couldn't hit anything. Um, and they averaged 3 yards per carry. Baker was 4.6 yards per attempt against that Lions D. And then last week against the Patriots, like they had a late garbage time touchdown, but before then they had 16 points at home against the Pats D. And like it's not an elite defense. So I have concerns about the Bucks offense right now. And Allen off a loss at home, I don't want to get in front of him. But I'll have more on this game later. For my second pick and the third overall, the Week 11 Sunday six pack, I'm going with the Cleveland Browns plus 8.5 against my Baltimore Ravens. This is my favorite time to bet the Browns. I've done it all 3 times this year, and when they play at home. Past 3 years, their defense at home is like arguably the best unit in the NFL. You could go look at EPA per play, success rate differential. It's insane. They shut down pretty much any offense they face. I mean, at home this year, by the way, this is like their first home game in a month. Um, they've only played 3 home games all year somehow. But at home this year, they should have beat Burrow, held them to 17 points. They beat Love, held the Packers to 10, beat the Dolphins, held them to 3. And 6 of their other 9 games have been away from home. The past 3 years, you want to hear something crazy? The past 3 years, the Browns at home are 62% against the spread. On the road, they're 5 and 17. 22.7%. Worse than the league. They're worse than the Titans, who
Oh
never
my
cover.
God. Yeah.
5 and 17 against spread. And by the way, as a touchdown plus dog at home over the past 3 years with that defense, 3-0 against the spread, they won all 3 outright. They beat the Packers, they beat the Ravens last year, and they beat the 49ers last year, all as touchdown plus dogs. Additionally, there's going to be bad weather here. There's going to be high winds, high wind gusts. It's going to be cold. That helps Cleveland exponentially. They don't have a downfield passing attack. There's no explosive passing. So that's going to hurt the Ravens much more. And by the way, whenever the Ravens can't run, they never can run it against Cleveland. I mean, look back earlier this year that Derrick Henry could barely get a yard, and this is arguably the first or second best run defense in the NFL. The Ravens' run D is still vulnerable without Matabuke and company on the defensive line. They have some issues at linebacker. I mean, last week the Vikings averaged, I don't know, 6 yards per carry. That's still not fixed. They still can't cover tight ends, and they struggle to defend short passes. Like that's the entire Browns offense. Like if the Browns can run it a bit, they can eat the clock up. If they can't, they're screwed. And by the way, I mean last week they outplayed the Jets. They gave up 2 special teams touchdowns. So yeah, I think the weather conditions will really help Cleveland. And this is just we haven't seen their defense at home in a while, and people forget what their defense does at home. And Baltimore on the season's 27th in success rate against the run, 26th in rush EPA. Still very problematic. And from a health perspective, I think this is key. The Ravens aren't fully healthy. They were fully healthy for a week. It was fun. They had no one on the injury report last week, but I don't think Bateman plays. Humphrey is banged up. Um, and Lamar, I was expecting more off extended rest as far as how he looked mobility wise. And it's just not there yet, the explosiveness in the running. And that's big against this pass rush, which I think is going to live in the backfield. And that's what makes Lamar Lamar. And then you throw in the conditions. It's I think it's going to be tough for this Ravens team to consistently move the ball. He just didn't look 100%. He took a lot of bad hits. Now you're going to be like in the cold and wind and rain with that hammy. I assume they probably want to be a little cautious with him. And you know, you got the whole season left, and I don't think this is the worst matchup for the Browns. But basically, I'm just trusting the Browns' home defense against the Ravens. I think this is a bit too many points. You'll get Cleveland's best effort here, and Cleveland's pretty much 100% healthy. Alex Wright is the only one who didn't practice today. I think that's it. So yeah, give me this Cleveland defense at home, catching over a touchdown. I mean, I bet them all 3 home games this year. Probably will bet them at home a couple more times. This will be the fourth, and they really should be 3-0 with wins over the Dolphins, Bengals, and Packers. So this is just a different team at home. I can't explain it. I don't know why their defense falls off so much on the road, but and the conditions will only help them. So yeah, give me Cleveland plus 8.5.
I mean, they probably just remember they're the Cleveland Browns when they go on the road. They're like, oh, it's hopeless. And it's no effort. But I mean, you got the best defensive player in the league, essentially, and you're at home elements. I think that, they got some swag at home. All right. Before we move
So far, I'm
on.
betting McCarthy and Gabriel.
I mean,
I'm
hey, at
not
least I
betting
got
Ward. Otherwise, I'd have the 3 worst quarterbacks in the league so far statistically.
Yeah, yeah. I got Baker, but I'm betting against Allen, so that doesn't feel great either. But before we get to the last three picks, there's a quick and easy way for you to tail us. First, sign up for Action Pro. You'll get instant notifications when any Action Network expert tracks a bet, whether that's myself, Stuckey, Brandon Anderson. You want to get those right away. Plus, you can access our pro projections powered by Sean Kerner and our predictive analytics team and a ton of other benefits as well. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro and get $20 off the annual price with the promo code POD20. That's POD20. Don't miss out on the best bets at the best prices. Visit actionnetwork.com/pro and use promo code POD20 to get $20 off a year of Action Pro. The rest of our Sunday six pack is coming up, but first I'll throw it to myself for a quick word from our sponsor. The Action Network podcast has teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, where new customers can bet $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins, and 3 months of NBA League Pass. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings daily fantasy sports and have a shot to win cash prizes. To get started, use promo code Action Network when signing up with DraftKings. Again, use code Action Network when signing up with DraftKings and bet $5 to get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins, plus 3 months of NBA League Pass. The crown is yours. All right, for my second pick, the fourth overall of the week 11 Sunday six pack, I'm going with the Washington Commanders +3. There's +3s out there, there's +2.5s out there. Try to get a 3, obviously key number, but this is as simple as I can't get to this number. It's a neutral field. I thought this line was going to be about a pick 'em or something. Miami's been playing a little better lately. Washington just put another corner on IR, so they're poverty in the secondary. I mean, their secondary is just horrible.
Well, then Payne decided that he didn't want to play last week. So he's suspended.
They're all. I mean, it's a mess. The Washington defense is a mess. Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah, there's no one left.
Yeah, this is not why we're betting on Washington, because we think their defense is going to magically improve. Well, I mean, hey, the coach is calling the plays now, I guess, so maybe that'll help. I don't know. But that's about the only thing Washington has going for it on defense. However, Miami, what are we really backing here with Miami? Like, how does Miami get? But Miami's now a 2.5 3-point favorite in this spot on a neutral field. Like that. How are we getting to this number with Miami? I don't know. Miami's defense is just as poverty level. They just happen to run into Buffalo and the humidity laying an egg. The Falcons without Drake London last minute, and that's basically what they've done. Positively over the past couple of months.
Well, they play without Penix too.
Yeah, exactly. Cousins. So yeah, it's the Falcons. Yeah. So what are we really? This Dolphins defense, all things considered, just as bad to me as this Washington defense. Now, yes, Washington maybe a little worse in the secondary. But remember, Miami traded guys. This is not a good Miami defense at all. And then offensively, I know Washington's without Terry. Miami's without Tyreek Hill. Miami, their offense, it's Devon Achane or bust, really. Waddle, okay. But Tua Tagovailoa, now, he goes from playing some teams that, a little more zone heavy. Washington will still, hard-headed or not, they'll still play man. They'll still blitz, just kind of create some havoc. The way these Dolphins have won over the past couple of weeks when they've won is Tua has thrown 20 passes per game in those games. They haven't really had to do anything through the air. So they haven't had the chance to create havoc on Tua, which in this game, there's just two bad defenses. I think there's a lot of luck involved there. I just can't get to Washington being 3 points worse. It's just two teams with terrible defenses, offenses that are kind of missing key pieces. And the market is now higher on Miami because they're putting puff pieces out in the media about McDaniel and him beating and him kind of beating his his alcoholism, and it's the market's just way too high on Miami for me. I don't have these teams separated by this much. Marcus Mariota and this offense, it's going to be able to move the ball on Miami's defense. Miami's defense is nothing special, and I just think that in this matchup, I'd rather have a quarterback who can move more than Tua can. And, two bad defenses. I'll take a 2.5 3-point dog any day in a neutral field. So give me Washington laying 3 uh, against Miami in where are we? In London? Is this London or is this Germany? I don't even know where we are.
Spain.
Spain, yeah, Spain. Okay, yeah. Give me Washington laying 3 in Spain with apparently. I mean, I guess Payne is some of the guys is quit, but if you look at Washington's strength of schedule too, like I mentioned, Miami, Buffalo looks like a great win on paper, and it is. I'm not going to take anything away from them, but it's still one of those games that Buffalo kind of historically struggles against in going on the road to Miami, coming off a big win against Kansas City. But you look at who Washington has played, and it's hard to expect anything but just poverty defense. Detroit, Seattle, Kansas City in Kansas City, Dallas in Dallas. Those are the 4 teams Washington's played over the past month. They lost by 1 to Chicago, and then they beat the Chargers, handily in LA, and they put up 27 in a 1 possession loss to the Falcons before that. So like Washington's schedule has been very, very tough. So we might still not have the full picture of them. They clearly are terrible on defense, but I'm just betting that they're not quite as terrible as the market thinks overall. And I think Miami, this might be the top of the market. Like they're not getting a better win than the Bills this year. Like they're just not getting it. Even if you look at the schedule, there's no way they can. So give me Washington against Miami. I just didn't ever think we'd get to this number.
Yeah, I mean maybe Washington plays more. I think you want to play zone against Tua. Not man. I mean historically he's done much better against man.
They're gonna
Including
blitz. They'll probably blitz though, and I just don't think
yeah,
Tua is.
but I
Like,
think that you
Buffalo
probably
blitzed
want
6
to play
times.
zone. Like I don't even know who their corners are this week.
Oh my
Who?
God, it's probably Iganogbany again.
Well,
Like,
because Jones is maybe is hurt. Um,
you're gonna have probably Sanders still,
yeah,
Igmanagny,
Sanders still be out there, but like I don't
and
even know if they have
yeah,
another guy on. Uh,
the practice squad. Good, good. We don't need any of these corners. Like all
oh,
these corners,
Antonio
get the fuck out
Hamilton.
of here.
Antonio Hamilton.
Get all these corners the hell out of here, man. Get them
But
all the
maybe
fuck.
they play more zone, which is I think zone and blitz and change things up. But
Isn't
yeah,
that Dan
I
Quinn's
guess you
OG
have to take the
style?
things here.
Isn't that Dan Quinn, like the OG Dan Quinn would have played more zone? I don't know, like this whole scheme is kind of a little far into me for Dan Quinn defense, but he said he's taking over the play calling for a bit. So I just feel like we're at the bottom of the market, Washington, top of the market, Miami. So yeah, that's
Yeah, that's fair. All right, for my 3rd pick in the 5th overall, the Week 11 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars +3 at home against the Chargers. Just can't get to this number. I think it should be like 1.5 based on my numbers. The Chargers can't block anyone right now. I mean, and they have to get rid of the ball within a second to do anything on offense. I mean, Herbert had 2.25 seconds to throw versus Pitt. It's only 5 games that happened this year for any quarterback. The highest pressure rate before this past week was 28%. Herbert was at 44%. I mean, that's insane. You're getting rid of the ball in 2 seconds and facing a 44% pressure rate. So, yeah, I mean, this team, they're laying 3 on the road against a competent team without an offensive line. And since they've had these offensive line issues, this is what the Chargers have done on the road. They beat the Raiders, Titans, lost to the Giants, and barely beat the Dolphins. Like that's what they've done on the road so far this year. And the Jags haven't been at home in over a month, and they've gone 1-3 in their past 4. They've played their losses were the Rams, Seahawks, and Texans. And the Texans they were up 20, but those are 2 of the better teams in the NFL. And then Texans are the best defense in the NFL. This will be a nice break. Most importantly, the Chargers' run defense is not great. I mean, below average in most metrics, bottom 3 in explosive runs allowed. That is usually my handicap when I look at Jags games. Can they run the ball? And by the way, all the teams they played lately have really good run defenses. The Chargers do not. They should be able to run it here. By the way, I think they get Brenton Strange back. Huge. I've been
That'd be
saying that for
amazing.
a month, especially in the red zone. Brian Thomas back at practice today. Jacoby Myers another week in the system. And if Herbert doesn't have any time, he can't attack the Jags safeties down the field often, and their safeties are pretty beat up. You don't want Andrew Wingard trying to cover back there. So, yeah, I think Jags are a bit undervalued here. They'll be able to run the ball, do some things. They've been much better at home this year. I mean, remember, this is the team that was catching 3 at home and beat Kansas City earlier this year. I'm not a believer in this Chargers team right now with the state of their offensive line. It's gonna just crumble games, especially on the road. So I think this line's too high. I think 3 is way too generous. Give me the Jacksonville Jaguars. And by the way, this game is enormous for playoff implications, playoff seeding. I think it's the highest leverage game uh, of the season so far. Yeah, according to Aaron Schatz, Jaguars 57, so basically 60% chance to get in the playoffs with a win, under 20 with a loss. Chargers 90% with a win, closer to a coin flip with a loss. Huge game in the AFC. Give me the Jags catching 3 at home.
Yeah, it's kind of been discouraging to see our Jags like just fumble away their freaking like we were on them a bunch of stuff.
Make the playoffs over window.
Right. It's like I mean, it was kind of bittersweet because like I had the Texans for the pod last week, but I mean, Jesus, just like it just seems like Trevor Lawrence is it just never comes together. I know he's missing guys, but oh man, it's just been a little bit disheartening. I don't think it's Cohen's fault either. I think it's just guys out there playing, but yeah.
Parker Washington also looks pretty good lately.
He looks real good. I like him. I like him a lot.
So if you got Washington, Thomas,
and
Myers out there with Strange back, and then a running game that you're going to have with Cohen against this defense, I think they'll be able to move the ball. And then you have an offense, which obviously is a better quarterback, but that doesn't have an offensive line. They have no tackles. They can't block. And the guy they were starting might not tackle the third string. He might not even play. So it's bad. And then the Jags can get pressure off the edge.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think like I'm always low on the Chargers. I think they continue to be overrated. I mean, they just kind of bumbled and stumbled to that victory against the Steelers, who I'll talk about now. So let's get to it. For my third pick, the sixth and final pick of the Week 11 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers minus 5.5 against the Cincinnati Bengals. And this might be an interesting one to some people, but I think that the Steelers, they've made some changes over the past few weeks. They kind of fell back a little bit into old habits last week on defense. I thought they still blitzed a little too much against Herbert, but the bottom line is the Steelers defense can get pressure. And this offense is going to be able to cook, especially against a Bengals defense that's just terrible against tight ends. That's
can't cover tight ends.
Yeah, they cannot cover tight ends. And the Steelers, they have 4 tight ends that they mix into their offense. Roman Wilson's starting to come along a little bit at receiver, and Austin's healthy as well. So, you've had some tougher matchups over the past few weeks. You played Green Bay, you played the Colts, and you played the Chargers defenses. Those are tough defenses. The Bengals defense, as you mentioned earlier, arguably the worst in the NFL. I know.
And no Hendrickson.
Yeah, no Hendrickson. And then you look on the other side. Okay, Bengals been hanging around. Joe Flacco reinvigorated this team. Yeah, whoop-de-doo. Okay, they get a late score to come within 9 of the Packers. Then they play 3 straight home games. So yes, they're coming off a bye, but now they're going on the road to Pittsburgh. In those 3 home games was that crazy game against the Steelers that I think, which is why this line hasn't gotten to 6. And then they they lose to the Jets and they lose to the Bears. They scored 38 and 42 points in those games. I don't think they're coming close to that against the Steelers defense, because the Steelers, unlike the Jets and the Bears, can get pressure, and they can do it without blitzing. They don't have to blitz. I know they've been blitzing too much. They've dialed it back a little. I'm hoping that after
they've also made some changes on the back end and some coverage things that I think have paid off.
They're playing just a lot smarter of a scheme, I thought, and I think they'll because they played 3 weeks ago and they gave up 33 points, excuse me. I think that'll kind of make them make some changes. And last week against the Chargers, I thought they still blitzed too much. This team they have Watt, they have Hayward. They don't need to blitz. And when you look at the Bengals, okay, Flacco, we're all excited that he's reinvigorated this offense. He's 40 years old. He cannot deal with pressure. Steelers are going to get pressure one way or another. they're going to get pressure. Whether they blitz, whether they don't blitz, they're going to get pressure. Flacco under pressure with Cincinnati this year, 49 dropbacks, 17 of them have ended in a completion. 41.5% completion rate, 3.6 yards an attempt. One of his 11 touchdowns have come against pressure. Even when you blitz him, just one of his 11 touchdowns have come against the blitz. So I don't think Cincinnati's going to have the same, success on offense here if Pittsburgh plays a bit smarter on defense, just plays to their normal talent level, and the home field's flip here. And then with Cleveland, Flacco is just as bad, 4.5 yards an attempt against pressure, 1 touchdown, 4 picks. So I think you're going to get turnovers here, and I think you're going to get a much easier matchup for the Steelers offense. That's not great, but not terrible either. And, they're starting to have guys, they're starting to have a third receiver emerge. They have 3 capable tight ends. And in this spot, they're talking about feeding Warren more, which I think is also very smart. Cincinnati might have to play Brown the whole game. They don't trust their backup. I don't think P. Ryan's going to go. It seems like he's going to miss some time with the ankle. So I just think that this could, strangely enough, even though they're coming off 2 horrible, horrible losses and a bye, this could still be the top of the market for the Bengals because they've scored 33, 38, and 42 in their last 3 games, and yet they are 1-2 in those games. So give me Pittsburgh to put up a big number and create some distance here in Pittsburgh against the Bengals.
Yeah, I thought about this one. Might end up playing it. I mean, especially if there's weather. The only thing I'm concerned about is like 2 old guys in the cold. But like if there's weather here, there's wind, there's a potential for like 20-mile-an-hour gusts, 10 to 15-mile-an-hour winds. Like, so it's bordering on impactful. That's going to hurt the Bengals so much more. And the Steelers can run it. They could just hand it off here and run all over Cincy's defense. They could just throw, and they throw short passes. That's all they do.
Yeah.
And they throw to their tight ends, which Cincy can't cover. And yeah, they're going to be able to get pressure on Flacco. I think the Steelers are a little cheap here. So I would agree with you.
All right, that is going to do it for our Week 11 6-pack. Let's see, you got McCarthy, you got who is it? Dylan Gabriel still, and Trevor. Oof, that I mean statistically, those might, because Trevor's down there. I haven't looked at I was looking at the numbers heading into last week, and I remember Trevor was like 30th in EPA and all that stuff. So I don't know where he is now, but yeah, this is a little shaken. And I got Mariota, 40-year-old Rodgers, and Baker, but with Baker with like half of his receivers. So yeah, not it's pretty on brand.
Pretty on brand.
Yeah. All right. Again, if you'd like to tail some of these pictures, look for the quick slip link in the podcast and video description. Make sure to sign up for Action Pro for instant notifications when all of our bets are tracked. All right, now it's time for our favorite totals of the week. I'll start us off here, Stuck. I'm going to roll with the Eagles-Lions under 47. You can get out there still. Some 46.5 doesn't matter for the contest. But essentially, this is, first of all, I know Lane Johnson probably still a little banged up. I know he should be expected, should go. But you still have like not a perfect Detroit offensive line, excuse me. And you have Jared Goff outdoors in what could be weather, and you have Philly, who they've kind of gone to more of a heavy offensive formation now. They're less 3 wide, more heavy. I think that lowers the total, and they're gonna kind of, especially against a team like Detroit, who still has a scary offense. I think Philly's gonna play ball control. They're probably
gonna go a half without scoring like they do every week.
Yeah, their offense is still not great. Like this,
I mean, it's bad. Like
yeah.
That performance on Monday night, they basically had 2 good plays. It was like a dump off to Barkley and then a bomb. That was it the entire game. There's no motion. There's no play action.
Short week.
Yeah. So, yeah, this one. The only thing I worry about is I just don't know. Like, one of the things I talked about last week going into that Washington game. Now, it's hard to rate because Washington's defense was so embarrassingly bad and like lost guys during the game, and it's obviously a horrific. But I was talking about how the Detroit offense has been in the tank for a month, and they couldn't run the ball. And I mean, if you look at their pass rate over expectation hasn't been positive in any game till last week.
Yeah,
and Campbell took over the play calling. So how much do I take from that? I don't know. It looked good, but I don't know how much of it was Washington. and how much of it was Detroit. Now, obviously, this is a much stiffer test, and I will say that coming out of that game, the one unit that I was both of those, the Eagles and the Packers, look like they have championship caliber defenses. We'll see which offense can figure it out by the time the playoffs roll around. Um, but adding Jalen Phillips that was a big addition. He really helped, gave them some juice off the edge. I thought he made a lot of really nice plays and played actually way more snaps than I thought he was going to in his first game. Um, so yeah, the Eagles defense I think is definitely trending up, and the offense is still just broken and predictable, and there's no creativity, and the offensive line isn't as good, and it's banged up, so like Barkley can't get going as much. Um, and like the only time the offenses looked great is like, I mean, people thought like, oh, it was the Giants. Like even against the Vikings, it was just a couple bombs on fourth downs. Um, but against the Giants, who have the worst run defense in the league, like when Barkley can get going and then the offense looks better. I do like some of the things they're doing with Jumbo, but just overall, the offense is not going to be explosive. And I mean, AJ Brown is just a ghost out there. Um, so yeah, I mean, Eagles games, it's it's going to take a lot for them to go over, and unless I see more from that offense.
And this is our favorite time of the year for the Eagles defense. Coming off a bye, couple like they came off the bye last week, but it's like, that Fangio defense coming off, extended time off. They had the 10 days against the Giants a few weeks ago off, and then they had the bye a couple weeks ago. So I think this defense down the stretch, it's going to kind of carry them, and they know that. They know that. Like this is a team who went in its shell last year after, they had some time to kind of self-scout. Against the Lions, you do not want to keep the Lions offense on the field, but even if you do, you get some, like there's a 33% chance of rain, double-digit winds currently in the forecast. It's not super cold, it's under 50, but still, I think this is going to be a little bit more of a rude awakening for the for the Lions offense, like outdoors against Philly versus outdoors against Washington. So yeah, I'm still tempted to take the Lions because Philly's offense has been so bad, but I think the total is the smarter way to play this. So going with the under. Where are you going?
DJ Reed back too potentially. At
Maybe
corner.
because Arnold is concussion protocol.
I
So
mean, Arnold's terrible, so
yeah,
uh, that would be a big swap there. Hutchinson didn't practice today, but I assume he'll be fine. Um, and Joseph, I don't know. He didn't practice today, but maybe they get him back. I'm gonna go with the Bills Bucks under. What do we got? It doesn't matter for the contest. 48, 47 and a
uh,
half.
yeah, I think there's a 48 still out there, but yeah, just
Um,
cut it down.
but you're gonna have weather here, two slower teams. If I mean the Bills, they're gonna run it. I don't know how much, but you're not, and you can't run on Tampa. Tampa's run game isn't the same without Bucky Irving. That's the best way to attack this Bills defense. Talked about some of the defensive things that Tampa does that could give Allen some trouble. Um, and then this Tampa offense is just not the same when Baker's not scrambling. I'm not sure how healthy he is. The offensive line is still banged up. They don't have all their skill positions. I think you get a spirited effort from the Bills defense. Almost all the guys that were questionable were practicing today, albeit on a limited basis. We mentioned no Kincaid. So I think there's a lot of things working in favor of the under here in a late season outdoor game with wind. What's the updated wind there in Orchard Park?
We have, let's see, 10 mile per hour winds, 40 degrees, 55% chance of snow showers.
Oh, I don't like that.
Yeah,
That'd
yeah,
be a
could that be a
snover.
snover? That could be a
Yeah, that'd be a
snover, huh?
snover.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh, yeah, that wouldn't be good for anything.
can
But
I switch it on the fly? Well, no, I still think it's a little too high.
yeah,
But I'll wait to play this. Snover is like you need like I'll explain what snovers are again. They rarely come up. You need like you need a good coating on the field to make it slippery because then defenders don't know where you're going. The pass rush gets neutralized, and then you can't have too much wind. I got to check the gusts there, but it's very hard to predict the wind in Buffalo. Um, like worse, especially if there's like going to be if there's a storm that rolls in. Um,
gusts
but
19 miles per hour, 19 miles per hour throughout the game as of now. The humidity about 80 in the high 80s too.
Yeah, so I think that's the only thing that would give me pause. But the chances that it actually ends up being a snoover are small. Um, but we'll see. If it ends up being too much snow, then it's a snunder because then no one can move.
Yeah.
Um, which and those rarely happen too. But yeah, I think this is a little too high. A lot of things working in favor of the under unless we get a snowbird. So stay tuned on the Action Network app.
All right. So Eagles, Lions under, Bucks, Bills under. Now it's time for our money line underdog parlay. All right. Got another one of these. I think you're like what is it? 9 and 10 and 8 and 2 on the year on these.
Yep.
Yeah. So where are you going first? Start us off. Who do you like for money line dog to pull an upset?
Don't love too many this week. Consider the Jags and the Cardinals. Um, but let's go with let's go with the Seahawks against the Rams. Uh, the Rams have been, I mean, we talked about this last week with their heavy personnel. Over the past 4 weeks, I believe, they're using 13 personnel and 40% of their snaps.
Yep. Yeah, those
Seahawks
personnel.
been good against defending that for what it's worth. I still think that so these are two really good teams, two legit contenders in the NFC. I can't wait for this game. Talked about some of like the boring NFL matchups and boring. This is not one of them. This actually should be a pretty exciting overall slate outside of like the command, like some of the primetime games are bad, but we've been unlucky with the primetime games. Like this week, the island games are Commanders, Dolphins, Raiders, Cowboys,
And Eagles. Eagles line is
Jets,
so good.
Jets, Pats. Yeah, we got Eagles lines. So we're going like one of four um, on like games that you're like, oh, I gotta watch this. But the afternoon slate should be pretty good, and this is one of them. I just think this will be a back and forth game. Like both offenses are real. They keep showing it. I think what the difference might end up being, like I think that the Rams are the rightful favorite here. But what could end up being the difference is the Rams defense, I still think is overrated. And like they can get pressure, they're good against the run, but I think their secondary, but the Seahawks can't really run it efficiently anyway. And Darnold's getting rid of the ball so quick. The Rams defense, their secondary, I think, is overrated. I mean, you look over the past 2 months. I mean, they played the Texans and the Titans to start the year. You can throw them out with the states of their offensive line and what those offenses look like at that time. They somehow give up 27 to the Eagles in the second half. They should have given up 30 plus to the Colts. All right, you had that dropped
Oh yeah.
A.D. Mitchell. You had the hold that brought back a Taylor touchdown. They get carved up by Mac Jones twice in the past month, who threw for 330, and they split those games. And then there are other games like in between then, which I think are like pulling up their defensive metrics. A lot of this is schedule based. They played Cooper Rush and the Ravens. That helps. They played Tyler Shuck and the Saints, and then the Jags I mean, the Jags were going up and down the field, but they just couldn't punch it in. Um, so like, yeah, I think their secondary is vulnerable. So I think there's just going to be opportunities for both teams to move the ball here. And I think that there's a case to be made that the Seahawks defense is underrated because we know they can get pressure without blitzing. We know how good McDonald is. We know how good this team's been on the road as well under McDonald. But they were also, for a long stretch of the season, dealing with serious secondary injuries. And now they're much healthier on that front. And they've had some other guys emerge. So, yeah, I think the Rams are the rightful favorite, but I think this is a chance to be a back and forth game where it's like last team with the ball has a chance to win. So I'll take a shot with the Seahawks.
And I think that that move for Rashid Shaheed helps because again the Rams cornerback a little shaky. The Seahawks you're not going to win every game in 1-2 personnel. So now the Seahawks have a little bit more versatility. And for the Rams, Devontae Adams tweaked something last game. So
Yeah.
I don't know what his status is, but that would be big if that would make them a lot more one dimensional. I know they have their tight ends, but Seahawks can defend that. This would be a game. You already put Atwell on IR. Whittington has given you nothing over the past, few games. So yeah, the injuries could also kind of tweak that. Job is the only guy for Seattle, and then their center. We'll see how much of an effect that has. That could mess some things up, but yeah, I think Seattle making that move for Shaheed could pay off in this one. Okay, I'm going with the other NFC West underdog here. I'm going with the Cardinals plus 136, and it's shaky. They're not gonna have Marvin Harrison in this one, appendicitis, so they're gonna be pretty one-dimensional with probably throwing a Trey McBride, but we do like our guy Greg Dortch, and I just think that this Niner defense is the worst of the two defenses. Cardinals home, Cardinals, I mean, there's some bad luck there with giving up 2 fumble return touchdowns to the same player against the Seahawks.
That was like the same exact play. It was pretty crazy. Same exact player knocked the ball out, bounced right into the same exact player for a touchdown. I thought it was a replay when I was watching it. I was looking away and I was like, wait, did this just happen again?
Yeah, the last 2 weeks, the Seahawks have put up, like, they've gotten to 30 in their games so freaking quick. It's absurd. But yeah, all that being said, the Niners defense can't stop anyone anyway. Niners on the road here. I just think that this is probably a coin flip game. Two, flawed, beat up teams. Jacoby Brissett, all things considered, playing well. Mac Jones playing well too. But again, Niners defense, I think, is going to let Arizona move the ball either way. And we saw Arizona, the one thing at home, what was it, a couple weeks ago, facing that Dallas offense, that mighty Dallas offense. They were able to hold them down, and then they give up the two scores to the Seahawks. But if you look, Darnold didn't have a great game.
He only threw it 12 times.
Right. Yeah. But he lose a fumble? I think he threw a pick. So, efficiency wise, it wasn't Darnold's greatest game. So I think this Cardinal defense might be a little underrated.
Definitely. Hopefully they get like Johnson and Melton back.
Yeah.
Robinson and Nolan are banged up. So their defense is banged up too, which is a bit of a concern. But yeah, now this is going out to 3. I'm probably going to end up playing the Cardinals.
Yeah, I might end up playing them on the spread too. Thought about them for the 6-pack, but as of right now, there's a lot of uncertainty. I think they make for a better money line dog, but I might end up playing them on the spread as well. But either way, Cardinals plus 136, Seahawks plus 150. You can parlay those together for plus 490. That was our money line underdog parlay for week 11. Now it's time for our anytime touchdown parlay presented by DraftKings. We're each going to choose our favorite anytime touchdown scorer for week 11. Stuck, who you got?
Well, I was going to go with yours. So I'm just going to throw in a little parlay piece just to sweeten the odds a little bit. It's very chalky, like minus 150-ish. But I'm going to go with Jaylen Warren. It's hard for me not to see him scoring against this Bengals defense. And you don't have Rodgers to vulture anything, and the Bengals, legitimately, you can just run at them at will. So if they get near the goal line at all in this game, which I expect them to do, Warren should find the end zone.
Yeah, they're talking about giving him more carries, and he's already been getting about 75-80% of the backfield carries over the past month anyway. So yeah, this could be a monster game for him. I like it. And the guy I'm going with is it's actually your guy, Greg Dortch, plus 279. Got the news that Marvin Harris is going to miss with appendicitis. So it's going to be McBride, and who knows, but not only is Dortch going to be, it looks like a top 2 receiver, because Zay Jones also on IR.
Yeah, who are they projected? Are they going to have to go heavy? They're going to have to go like more 12 here. But
yeah, I would say Higgins. So the receivers would be Zay Weaver and Simi Fehoko. Usually Weaver would be the third guy in that scenario. With Dortch probably playing the slot, Weaver outside. Fehoko really hasn't had many snaps, so I'm guessing it'll kind of continue that way. But yeah, those are the top 4. So Higgins will see probably the most work as like kind of that fifth guy in the route. But either way, Dortch top 2 receiver, and what did he do last week? He got a short yardage carry. So still don't see anything about Benson coming off IR. Bam Knight was a little banged up in that last one. DeMarcado, he's been like moonlighting as the lead back, but the carries kind of shifted to Knight last game. Carter's not on the practice squad now. So yeah, I think Dortch, running the ball.
Isn't Bam Knight hurt too?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He got banged up, and he led the team in carries last week. So I
Maybe
think it.
Dortch will be the lead back.
Yeah, I'm not ruling it out because they've been a little more hesitant to use him as a receiver than as a like they've used him as a runner quite a bit with this coaching staff. So I like the odds at plus 280 because I think he's probably gonna get 75 to 100% route participation rate. If he's a slot receiver and they go with like Zay Weaver as a full-time outside, maybe that's he's on the low end. But either way, I think he'll probably be a top two guy considering they haven't played those other guys at all this year. And then he could get some short yardage carries. And he's always a threat to break one. So a lot of different and this Niners defense is just poverty. So yeah, love Dortch in this spot. Parlay Warren Dortch together, and you get plus 520 odds, so a little greater than 5-1. That's our anytime touchdown parlay presented by DraftKings. All right, so before we get out of here, a few games we didn't touch on. Any thoughts on Chiefs Broncos?
I mean, this spot screams Chiefs. Broncos have been I mean, for my money, probably the luckiest team in the league. I mean, you're talking about a team that beat the Raiders by 3, the Texans by 3 after Stroud gets hurt. The Giants by 1 after their whole secondary gets hurt. They're down 30 in the fourth. The Jets by 2. The Eagles, they come all the way back, win by 4. I mean, that's basically their resume. Um, Knicks has been horrible. I mean, across the board. And now you're not fully healthy. Like the Broncos have defensive injuries. No Sertan is huge, and no Sertan. They were going to get carved up by the Texans, and then Stroud gets hurt, and then they played the Raiders, who are completely incompetent on offense. But now you're going to play Mahomes, and the Chiefs coming off of a bye in like a must win. The problem is the price, like 3.5, 4. Like I wish I wanted to lay 3 here with the Chiefs. Maybe a good money line parlay piece. Um, but the price, like for me to lay, like we're starting to have to say like the Chiefs are like in order for me to want to play this like 6 points better than the Broncos.
Nah,
That's
yeah,
a little aggressive. So everyone knows this is the spot for the Chiefs. They're coming off the bye. The Broncos have been fraudulent. Um, but it's just the price. But Chiefs good money line parlay piece. Um, Elsewhere, what else we got?
Packers,
Texas
Packers, Packers,
Packers.
Broncos.
I don't know. I mean, like, it looks like Dobbs is going to play. They really missed him at the end of that Eagles game because they had to throw to Melton, who should be. You can see why they moved in the corner. They had to throw to Melton way too much at the end. Um, but they're bad. They really need Reed back. I think they need to figure out the passing offense. But this is a game where you could just hand it off to Jacobs.
Yeah,
Then he'll
big game
run
for
all over
Jacobs.
the Giants because the Giants have no run defense. What are you getting from Jameis? Like now, this offense is to look completely different.
Yep.
I, I don't know. Uh, it's high variance Jameis. So I wanted to play the under. If Russ was playing, this would have been a slam dunk under. Like, how are the Giants going to score? They probably weren't. And then the Packers were just probably just going to come out here and run the ball. You got Jenkins is hurt too. I think that matters. And there's still no Kraft. They're still trying to figure out their way on offense, and they keep dealing with more injuries. So I have no idea on that game. Um, I don't mind the Packers as a teaser piece. Um, Falcons,
Texans.
Panthers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Falcons,
I
Panthers.
like it's a tough spot for Atlanta, like coming off an overtime game, coming back overseas, back to the States. But, the last time they were at home, they got embarrassed by the Dolphins. The last time they played the Panthers, they got embarrassed by the Panthers. I would assume you get their best effort here. Still some injuries I'm watching there. But I said this last week with the Colts, the run defense for Atlanta is extremely problematic, especially without Diablo. We saw Jonathan Taylor run all over them. The Panthers don't have Jonathan Taylor, but they still can be a very effective rushing offense. The Falcons don't have a great home field advantage. Now you have like a divisional road dog catching over a field goal that should be able to run the ball. So not sure I can lay over 3 there with Atlanta. And you just never know what you're going to get with the Falcons. So no idea there. Texans, Titans. I assume Stroud's not going to go. What it
Yeah, he didn't
sounds like.
practice. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't practice today. They might get some offensive lineman back. Petrie doesn't look like he's going. The Titans need to get healthier on defense. Like, is Simmons going to go? That's huge. Like, he just makes such a big difference for them. And they got a couple other guys worth monitoring on that side of the ball. But the Texans offense, especially with Stroud, but even with Mills, they're doing some much better things lately. Their jumbo packages, and it looks like Howard will be back this week. Woody Marks' emergence is enormous. He is the best back by far, and he gives them juice in the passing game as well. So their offense is kind of trending up. But do I want to lay 6.5, 7 with Davis Mills on the road? No. Do I want to bet the Titans plus 7 against this Texans defense? No. So probably a pass. And then I think that was it.
Yeah, because then you got the Cowboys Monday night. All right, that's gonna do it for week number 11 Action Network podcast presented by DraftKings. Thanks for listening. Shout out to our sponsor, DraftKings. Again, if you want to tail some of the best discussed today, find a quick slip link in the video and podcast description, or visit actionnetwork.com/bet now. Check out @Playbook on X, Fantasy Flex for Kerner and I. 3 episodes per week. Stuckey's on BBOC and the favorites. And he's on X @Stuckey2. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on a free award-winning Action app. Until next time, let's get this money.
Let go.